Well, let's talk about the sort of the impressionable climbers out there, because that is a theme that you kind of hit on throughout the book, um, which is it sounds to me like, I mean, a lot of people that you interviewed were saying um, they were doing it because they saw other people doing it, or because of a film or a movie, or a book that they read. It does seem like that's potentially a very real phenomenon of and that somebody might choose to cross that line just because of the glorification of it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they're not everyone, like you say. There's a lot of people who, I interviewed who said I would never free solo, or I tried it and I would never do it again, or I accidentally free soloed and it was a terrible experience. I'm lucky I lived, and so, um, but I think that yeah, there's outside influence. You don't just magically one day go see a rock and go, I'm going to climb that without a rope. You have to be, I think you have to be indoctrinated into it somehow. You have to see someone, or you have to see a film. Maybe go climbing by yourself sometime and not have a partner and think you really still want to go climbing, and just try it. Um, so for me, in fifth grade, I saw that film Solo, and I thought, that's really cool. I want to be a climber now. And I really like this ideal of the lone climber, struggling up the rock cliff all by himself. I thought that was great. And then, as I got into it, like I said, I saw John Becker. I saw other people doing it. The people I was traveling with, eventually, they would go off on their solo circuits, and I would follow along because I was part of that group. There were, stories written, published in the magazines that made it sound, created sort of a mythology of free soloing. I'm thinking of John Long's story, The Only Blasphemy, that just kind of, created the mythology of how John Backer started free soloing. That was very powerful. So, I think the other films that have come out, and especially free solo, have the potential for influencing. Alex says at the end of the film, that right now there's some kid out there who's thinking, what's bigger, what's cooler, what's next? And that was a subject of a lot of conversation, especially among parents that I talked to, parents of young climbers.
It's a whole new world with video and streaming, that so many people have access to such high quality material, and free solo is a great example of that. We're from that previous generation. It was books and magazines. For me, it was Hot Henry Barber. He's still up there on my list of free soloers. What he came and did in Australia back in the 70s was remarkable. He upped the grade here by 3, I think it was, in his short time. But he soloed everywhere he went, and I went and read his book and saw, what he did over in the UK and what he did in Yosemite, and his purest thinking. He had a real philosophy too about his climbing. He wanted to climb as clean and as free as he could. For him, it was like meaning. He wanted to do it technically perfectly and as cleanly as he could, and soloing to him was that place. And he's one of the ones that's lived too. So I think that's an important point. So I learned a lot from him. And then the other one, of course, a friend of yours, mate, Peter Croft. And watching his character, he's got a gentle character. He's softly spoken. He's a gentleman. It was discipline. It was a real beautiful discipline. And that was also appealing for me with soloing, because as a young man, I wanted that discipline. And as a young climber, I seeked it. And I think that's one of the reasons I started climbing, for personal discipline, to get through my own hustles. And those guys emulated, for me, perfection. And that was my appeal to go soloing as well. But there's just a little bit of my background of how media has influenced me.